Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday, September 20th, 2017 episode of Free Webinar Wednesdays. This is Eric Cook, and I'm with WSI Digital Marketing, where we work with businesses and organizations on helping them better understand and leverage the power of the internet as a strategic business tool. You can learn more about me and all the fun stuff we get to do here at WSI online at poweredbywsi.com. With me this week is my good friend and Free Webinar Wednesday partner, Mr. Jeff Simpkins. Jeff, say hello to everybody out there in Free Webinar Wednesday world.
Greetings, everybody. This is Jeff Simpkins. I'm with Community Bank Consulting, Inc., and you can learn more about me and Community Bank Consulting online at www.communitybankconsulting.com.
It was really weird to say September 20th because that means we're like halfway through September. Fall is right around the corner. All of our lake toys we have pulled and proceeded to start the process of winterizing them. And I look back and I go, where the hell did the summer go? I don't know if you feel the same way, but it's
yes,
it's
I
like,
do.
poof, what happened to it all? So, yeah, crazy times. So, So how have you been since the last week? We didn't have a show last week, and I know I didn't do a formal write-up today, but I have a couple things to chat about. But how's your last couple of weeks been?
Yeah, it's been good. We sort of ended up talking most of a show about lightning hitting my house a few weeks ago, and I'm in the final stages of getting that submitted to the insurance company. So I've spent way more time this week than I would like to think on getting an insurance claim ready.
Oh, geez. Well, and you are up here in northern Michigan. We don't really have to worry about things like hurricanes or earthquakes or any of that crazy stuff. But down in the Carolinas, you've still got some weather issues that are coming your way. So hopefully you're remaining safe and sound. And for anybody that I would be willing to get maybe is not able to join us live from the Caribbean or those parts down in the island areas. But holy smokes, Mother Nature is she's got an axe to grind. She's not real happy.
Yeah, we were pretty lucky. We sort of like Fort Lauderdale were scheduled to be in the path of the eye of the storm, and as the storm approached the United States and kept moving west, we managed to not even be in the direct line of the width of the storm. So,
yeah,
as you and I were talking before the show started, we pretty much ended up with just a bunch of crap in the pool, and the yard looked like it had a fresh new carpet of leaves and pine needles, but aside from that, all was well.
No, nothing that a rake and a good pool skimmer won't take care of then, I take it.
Well, a little more than a skimmer. It took quite a bit of vacuuming.
Gotcha. Well, we've got a place on the lake, and we don't really have to worry about skimming or cleaning that. So that just kind of happens by nature's course. So, but anyway.
Well, I think one of the things you said you want to talk about today is some Apple stuff, and I will tell you that I updated my phone to the new OS pretty early in the release cycle yesterday morning, so I already have some experience with it. I can talk about.
Cool. Well, I want to hear that. So we've got, I think, three things that I wanted to chat about. One was the show that we had 2 weeks ago where I recapped my experience with the PCBS and talked a little bit about hashtags. I had a conversation with a banker friend of mine, and he may even be listening to this recording because he can't catch him live, and made the comment that I listened to your webinar and I'm still not sure what the heck hashtag is. So I want to go back and make sure to do another attempt, because maybe I explained it not so well, and try to get a little bit more high level. And I'm going to use you as the canary in the coal mine, Jeff, to make sure that, maybe you can translate my geek speak, because I tend to get a little excited when I talk about this kind of social media stuff. But then absolutely wanted to chat about Apple, even though I've got Android phones, and the Pixel 2 is coming out in October, which I'm pretty excited about. So that will be another show. But chat a little bit about some of the stuff that's gone on at Apple, facial recognition, the iPhone 10. I almost said X, but I meant to say 10. The new iOS 11. Kind of some of your experiences there and what people can expect if they are iPhone users. And then wrap up talking a little bit about a conference that I'm going to be at next week, all about fintech and cool banking technology. So for any bankers that are joining us live or listening to the replay, some cool stuff going on, and actually did a Bankers Education Series webinar yesterday with my good buddy JP Nichols, and that is available on our site as a replay, talking all about cool fintech stuff. So
what is that site?
Yeah, so it is powered by WSI.com/BES. And let me go ahead and I will type that up here for everybody's benefit. So BES stands for Banker Education Series. That will redirect you to my Banker Education Series page. There's the lovely picture of my friend JP. Jeff, you have been a guest on Banker Education Series in the past as well. But on this, you can see episode 16 with JP. You can click right here, and that will take you directly to YouTube, and you can watch the recording of the webinar. And we talk about all sorts of really cool fintechy bank technology, next gen, kind of how technology is changing. And there's a conference that I'll talk about here in a little bit called Next Money Chicago 2017, and that's coming up on Tuesday of next week. And I will be there as an attendee, not presenting, but I will be there as an attendee, and I'm looking forward to trying really hard not to walk around with my mouth wide open, because there's going to be some really awesome fintech people there that I'm really excited to get an opportunity to meet. So with all of that being said, I didn't do my perfunctory reminders, so I will throw those out here now. If you have a question, comment, or would like to interact, please use the chat function if you're listening live. Jeff and I love to get that interactivity with our live audience. And today's show and all shows on Free Webinar Wednesdays are recorded and made available at freewebinarwednesdays.com, just as the Tweeting with Bankers in Seattle presentation and all the others. You can go down over on the left-hand side and you can see, here's the episode that Jeff was referring to, Banking Schools and Lightning Strikes. And I think the intent with that was to talk a little bit more about banking schools, but we ended up talking more about lightning strikes and how Jeff has been able to recover all of his technology from, again, that wrath of Mother Nature. So that might be an interesting episode if you're interested in kind of learning what sorts of lessons came out of that. What do you do when Mother Nature strikes and takes the majority of your electronics out of the game? So let me just first kind of throw back to you, Jeff, on this hashtag, because if I wasn't doing a really good job of explaining what a hashtag is in the grand scheme of social media and social networking, would you like to take a stab at your interpretation of a hashtag? And then I'll kind of let you kind of start the process of some dialogue around this topic.
Sure. I like to think of a hashtag as like a label on a file folder. The rule that you have to follow with a hashtag is no spaces. So if you need to have a space inserted, which most people normally don't use spaces in hashtags, you would use an underscore instead.
Correct. And I guess the labeling functionality of a hashtag, and again, I think one of the big reasons why hashtags are becoming popular, and if you see a lot of big brands, rather than, I guess, put the, visit our website or follow us on Facebook, they're actually putting in the hashtag, and like, I think So You Think You Can Dance is a show that my wife likes to watch. They have a hashtag for that. So if you want to talk about So You Think You Can Dance, on Twitter or on Facebook or on Instagram or on Pinterest or on LinkedIn. Not that there's probably a lot of LinkedIn conversation about that. You can apply that label to that conversation and participate and contribute information, observations, who you think should be the winner. But you also have the ability to then go into those various social networking platforms and see what other people are talking about. So I could go into Twitter and I could do a search for the hashtag So You Think You Can Dance, and I could see what other people out there are talking about that particular TV show or that particular community event or that particular product or service. And so I like to think of it as the label slash organizer slash almost like a keyword to help people find topics of conversation in a variety of different channels. Because if you're somebody that's active on social media, you may have a Twitter account, you may have a Facebook account, you may have an Instagram account, but you don't just use one platform. You look in multiple areas, and that's going to give you an opportunity to be able to find conversation across those different areas, and kind of see who's talking and who's saying what. So hopefully that helps. And if not, you know who you are. If you're listening to this, if that still doesn't make sense, then just give me a call and let me know, and we can talk a little bit further. But hopefully that helps.
So I think one of the things that's confusing to a lot of folks that either don't use hashtags or they're not familiar with the concept as much is they struggle with the fact that there's not a registry that you register your hashtags. Hashtags are just created by use. So in the show that you talked at length about hashtags, you gave an example of how you wanted to find a hashtag that was not being used by someone else. So you used some of your tools and went out and searched for a specific hashtag. You want to comment on that a little more? I think that is confusing to a lot of people.
Sure, and because a lot of people think, and especially as brands start using hashtags in their promotional material, some people think that that's something that you have to go out and register. And we've often heard questions from folks that have said, well, where do I register a hashtag? How do I go about, buying a hashtag or getting one? The process really kind of revolves around squatters' rights. In the sense that if you find a hashtag that's not being used, because when you search for it, it's not out there, then that means nobody is using it. Then that means if you start using it and including it as part of your promotional material, then that information is only going to be attributed back to you. And so in this instance, and I go back to the So You Think You Can Dance, and if my wife listens to this recording, she's going to be like, seriously, you use that TV show in your free webinar Wednesdays? Wow.
It's a good thing she never listens to this show.
Yeah, exactly. So she'll be surprised that I'm actually paying attention to the TV show and not really buried on my laptop like she thinks that I probably am. But if you go out and you wanted to see what other people were talking about with regards to this show, you could go out to Twitter and just do a search for the hashtag So You Think You Can Dance, and you can see there are a couple of individuals here that get associated with that. I know Mary Murphy, as annoying as she may be when she talks about getting on the hot tamale train and screaming and all that other fun stuff, and I'm divulging way too much knowledge about this show right now, and this is being recorded, so I'm sure I'm probably going to catch a ration of crap from all of my friends because I know too much about this. But you can see individuals that are associated with that hashtag that are part of the show, or celebrities that have been there, or dancers. But then you can also see other people that are actually talking about the show, the different people. So here's episode, somebody actually recorded this with their phone and posted it up. And so you can kind of get an idea of who else is out there. And so this gives you the ability to see who's having that conversation. If you and I, Jeff, wanted to create a hashtag for, let's say we wanted to create a hashtag. We were going to do another show on Free Webinar Wednesdays lightning strikes. We could go out and we could do a search for FWW lightning, and we would search for that, and we could see, hey, there's nobody out there that is using FWW lightning. So now we know that if you and I and anybody else that's listening to this show or hears about the show or talks about the show, if we go and we search for FWW lightning down the road, we know that that is conversation directly attributed back to us. And somebody could use that FWW lightning on Twitter. They could go out to Facebook and they could use that to say, listening to hashtag FWW lightning with Eric and Jeff, great information, need to buy a power strip, whatever the case is. But they could share that, their thoughts, their observations, their feedback in any of the other social networking platforms. And by using that hashtag, it gives me the ability, gives anybody the ability to see who's talking about FWW lightning across whatever social media platform they choose. Because some people may prefer to use Facebook and not Twitter, or some people may prefer to use Instagram and not Facebook. But this way it ties that whole conversation together, because the hashtag is the common element, not the platform. Other thoughts, Jeff, or do we hopefully cross fingers, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, that maybe did the trick?
I think let's move on. You know, you can overtalk something.
Yeah, that's true, which I've been known to do on occasion. Anyway, that being said, let's hop over to the wonderful world of Apple. So they made some announcements and some cool stuff and some really cool stuff and some changing stuff. So you said, I guess we've got the devices themselves, and which aren't available yet. You can't buy them, you can't use them, but there's lots of reviews out there that people have started talking about. So we have the devices themselves, and we've got the new operating system, which you can use. And so I'll let you pick which one of those you want to talk about first, Jeff.
Let's start with devices.
Cool. So
let's start with the iPhone 8 and the iPhone 8 Plus.
Okay, let's do that.
So I actually did listen to the Apple event live, sort of background listen. I think I missed a little bit of the beginning, but have been able to catch up by just reviewing in the media. The iPhone 8 Plus, I think, I have a 7 Plus, and I am not going to upgrade to an 8. The cool stuff that I saw on the Apple event is the camera. The camera looks like it is a significant upgrade. They have done some cool new stuff with the camera. I haven't tried to see if it will work on my phone yet. One of the things I liked is they've got a portrait mode that you can take a picture in an ordinary setting, and the phone will literally change the picture so that it appears as if it's a studio portrait. Aside from that, I don't know that there were any big things I picked up on. What are you seeing in your reading, Eric?
Well, what I have seen, I mean, granted the camera, I think that, and it's funny, these are phones, and a majority of people now measure the success or the value of these devices not off of their ability to make a phone call or browse the internet or use it as a computer, but it's the camera. I talked to somebody the other day that is actually going to pull the trigger on the iPhone 10 or the X, whatever you want to call it, because the camera is of the quality that they used to have to use their digital SLR for just a few years ago. And the amount of money that it costs to buy that device versus getting a camera of equal quality, and the fact that they can use it for email and browsing the internet and telephone calls and whatnot. The camera really seems to be the driver for most people these days, because everything else, which I would say maybe battery life also falls into that area, but everything else pretty much is really revolving around the camera. The only other thing that I noticed, because I think pixel quality and retina display and clarity and crispness, those are all pretty much there. The only other item that I caught that I think is I think going to be more and more of a trend in devices is the water resistance. And that was one of the other items that this device now has as part of its functionality, is it gives you waterproof. And then I guess as I'm browsing down through the list of things, we also see
that it's got call.
Sorry, boss. I'll get you.
wireless charging.
All right, you can keep that for a receipt.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
You're not on,
Come on, Precious.
you're not on mute. You're not on mute, Jeff.
See you.
So anyway, you all know that Jeff's dog now is named Precious. So, but we've got wireless charging, which I think is another element. We've seen that in the Samsung phones, and it's kind of interesting to see that kind of rolling in, as and who knows, at some point maybe even an external plug. They removed the headphone jack, and everybody freaked out on that. But at some point, maybe even the power jack will be removed from future phones as wireless charging becomes more of a commonplace. So that's those are the other two things. So here's a reference to the iOS, the actual operating system that you downloaded. You can see if you're an iPhone user, this has got a little bit different look and feel than what you may be accustomed to. So I don't know if you want to dovetail into the iOS at this point, or if you want to talk at all about the 10. And I think you're on mute.
Eric?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I lost my connection. So I didn't hear anything you said in the last 3 to 5 minutes.
So the two items that I was suggesting were also, in addition to the camera, I was saying waterproof and wireless charging. And as I scroll down through all the different elements, we're kind of at the point now where on the screen we've got the iOS change, and how that is looking different for folks that are joining us that have actually got an iPhone and maybe are used to seeing a different type of screen. So the question was, do we want to switch over to the iOS? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm actually glad that you mentioned the wireless charging. I had forgotten about that. Several years ago, 2012, Costco, for a short period of time, had a charging pad, and they actually had a connector that you hooked up to the iPhone at that point. And I got one, and when I went to bed at night, I just laid my phone on top of the charging pad. It's one of those features that until you have it, you don't know you need it, but once you have it, you always need it.
Right.
It actually is, that's a pretty exciting feature for the day-to-day use, probably just as exciting as the improvements in the camera. I have been kind of so intrigued by that I actually did go out and price the charging pads, because the charging pads don't come with the device. And they're running about, now that one is not on the market yet. They did show that at the Apple event, and that I think is going to be on the market next year. Yeah, available 2018. So you have to get it from a third party, and I think it was Belkin. They were running close to around $70 for their charging pad. For some reason, I was on the IKEA website the other night, and I noticed that IKEA has some wireless charging pads. I didn't take the time to see if it's compatible with the new iPhone and other devices yet, but a couple options for that.
Yeah.
The screen
The
that
one
you
comment
had,
that I made, the one comment I made that you may not have heard was, when the last iPhone came out, they removed the headphone jack and everybody freaked out. And now even some of the Android devices are following suit. Samsung came out with wireless charging, and now Apple follows suit. So what I'm wondering is, at some point down the road, could we very well see just basically a completely enclosed device that doesn't have any sort of a charging port, and everything goes to just wireless? So there's no headphone jack, there's no power cord, there's basically no way to plug anything in. It's just a complete sealed technology brick of electronic goodness. I don't know if that is in our future, and to that extent, wireless charging would have to become much, much more pervasive and available. But who knows, maybe 5 years down the road, the concept of a charging cable will seem passe, and oh my God, can you believe we actually had to plug stuff in to get electricity to it? Who knows?
well, when you look at
Back
the
in my
fact that
day.
Apple charges you probably $20 for a charging cable that probably cost them 3 cents to make in China, seeing the charging cable disappear might not be such a bad thing.
Yeah. So, all
So
right.
it was
So
this
let's chat about iOS.
that
Yep.
you had up, and I actually have played with that a little bit on my phone, and it's kind of cool. It's a nice improvement. So where you see green light, that's actually the area that controls music on the phone. And if you want to enlarge that, you just hold your finger over that area and you'll get a larger control space. The same is true of most of those options on the phone. You just hold your finger and it gives you a larger space. Haven't tried this out yet, but the devices on the left where you see airplane mode, Bluetooth, and wireless, they actually talk in the tips section of iPhone about the fact that you can disable Wi-Fi on the phone temporarily, and it doesn't disable your AirDrop and a few other features. 2 buttons that you see there they've just redesigned them as the volume button and the screen brightness button. And then, of course, the 4 buttons across the bottom haven't changed: the flashlight, the screen lock, the calculator, and the camera. New button there, I think. Oh, the screen monitoring actually was on a separate screen before, so you had to actually swipe to get to the screen mirroring button. They've switched that.
Cool. Okay. What about from an app launch, using email, browsing the web? Are there any other, like, split screen, other sorts of capabilities that have been introduced that weren't present prior to iOS 11?
I have not tried any of those. Now, remember, the release just came out yesterday about, I think, around noon Eastern time. And I don't tend to use Safari as the browser on my iPhone. I use Chrome because I use it on my desktop, and it carries all of my information from device to device. I think in Safari they were making some improvements that are also going to be tied in with Safari on the desktop when they bring out the macOS next week. One of the things that I did notice right away, as soon as the login screen came up when I installed the new release, is it looks like the colors are more brilliant on my phone. Even though I didn't change devices, it appears that the operating system, there have been some enhancements that have made the imagery on the screen better.
Cool.
One of the things that I did notice, I'm the family photo holder. I've got 30-some thousand photos in the Photos app. And as soon as I installed the iOS update, I saw improvements immediately to the Photos app. One of the things that they've added that I've wanted for a long time is syncing of faces from device to device. So if I label Aunt Susie on my iPhone now, when I open photos on any of my other devices, it's going to show Aunt Susie. I don't have to do that individually on each of the devices. They've
Very
also
cool.
made a couple other cool improvements in photos that I think once the Mac OS is released next week, we'll get more of the value of those improvements.
Sweet. Good deal. Okay. Do you want to shift gears at all into, you said you're not going to upgrade to the iPhone 8. Does that mean you are going to upgrade to the iPhone 10? And I don't know, they skipped the 9, so I don't know why they did that, but apparently there's no such thing as a 9 in the iPhone, but we've got the 10 here.
Not yet. So, the media has made a big deal out of the fact that the 10, the starting price tag is $999. To be honest with you, I've always, when I bought an iPhone, I've always bought the most amount of memory that I could buy on the phone, and I've never regretted that. I've heard lots and lots of people over the years say I've run out of memory, I've got to take music off my phone, I've got to take photos off my phone, I've got to blah, blah, blah. I just spend the extra, it usually ends up being a couple $100 and get the most amount of memory. So I've already been paying $799 or $899 for a phone. For the entry level of the 10 to be $999 doesn't seem like that big a jump for me. I think if you go with the 256 memory instead of the 64, it bumps it up another $200, so it comes in at $1,199. Is that too much to pay for a phone? Yes, but is it how much phones cost in the world today? Pretty much. It's just a couple $100 bump in price. The big thing that would make me go with the 10 is the face recognition. I will tell you the fingerprint reader on my phone, I'm exaggerating, I'm sure, but it feels like it doesn't work about 80% of the time. To get the facial recognition would be worth the extra couple $100. So I don't know if I'll do it or not, but the thing that excites me about this phone is the facial recognition.
Well, for people that haven't seen the announcement or heard anything about it, which is different because a lot of the biometric identification technologies out there revolved around either the retina or the iris and the eye itself. And this takes that to the next level where it's no longer ocular identification methodology. Now it's the actual entire face. So do you feel comfortable enough kind of talking a little bit about how they introduced this new concept from an unlocking perspective and what that means for this non-buttoned, no more fingerprint capability?
Sure. So you've got a picture of the phone on the screen right now. There are no buttons on the face of the phone. Anybody that's been around for the last 10 years has seen an iPhone and knows that pretty much the orientation of the phone getting back to the home screen or waking the phone up has mostly been around the large button on the face of the phone. This iPhone 10 has no buttons on the face. It's a 100% glass surface. The only buttons on the phone is the power button, the volume up, the volume down, and I think it still has the switch that switches it from, yeah, it does, I see it there. It's got the switch that switches it from audible to vibrate. The way you wake up this phone is by, I think you can push any of the buttons, or you can simply put your finger on the glass of the phone, on the face of the phone, which when you put your finger on the face of the phone, it shoots what I'm going to describe. This is not correct, but I'm going to use a comparison. Think of it as like infrared beams that are shot from the phone to your face. And if it's a match, it unlocks the phone. In the Apple event, they actually went a little deeper, and I didn't memorize everything they said, but they gave examples of how they used photographs, and photographs will not unlock the phone. They gave an example. I think they said they used identical twins. and there are enough subtle differences in the two faces of identical twins that the phone wouldn't unlock. So they've really done a good job. At least they're publicizing having done a good job of building in some outstanding security.
Sorry, I was on mute. We have somebody at the house,
okay.
and Lily was deciding to be a little vocal, so we needed to mute that. You guys didn't need to listen to her talking and saying hello. The number that I had heard, and you know, I've got a Pixel device by Google, and I will tell you, and maybe they've refined the fingerprint capability. It's on the back of the phone. It's very comfortable, and if I'm working out, for example, and I'm hot and sweaty and I try to unlock the device, the fingerprint will fail. But I kind of got to figure, well, it's probably having a hard time getting a read because I'm hot and sweaty, and I get it. So then I just unlock it with my unlock pattern. But the fingerprint really, when it's perfect conditions and I'm not hot and sweaty or doing something, that has worked out pretty well for me. I didn't realize until I actually caught part of the actual Apple keynote that you know, there are ways to hack that, and I think they said, like, I want to say it was 1 in 100,000 or 1 in 10,000 could breach a fingerprint, whereas they claim the facial recognition that they have implemented with the 20,000 dots is more of like a 1 in a million. Yeah. Right. Although I found it rather interesting that when they tried to unlock it during the keynote, it actually failed and wouldn't work, which was probably one of those, you know, technology always fails you when you're in front of an audience. So I've been there, done that. We've seen that here on Free Webinar Wednesdays before. That's what you get for doing a live show.
We sure have.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So, but anyway, yeah. So that was kind of an interesting. You know, I guess how they purport that works, and there are security concerns. And actually, Tim Cook was on Good Morning America yesterday because as biometric information, whether it was the iris and the retina from the ocular methodologies in days gone by, or facial recognition, the concern is, okay, well, what does Apple do with all that information? Now they've got my face, your face, you know, millions of other people's faces. Do they store that data? Where does it go? And he was very clear to say in the interview that that data doesn't go anywhere but in your phone. It does not get transmitted back to Apple. It's not communicated into the system. It's not recorded on any of their systems. It's just device only. And he said, you know, we have our customers' best interests in mind, and we are all about privacy. There's the conspiracy theorists out there that will say, yeah, but that's a load of BS because it's stored somewhere. Big Brother is getting pictures of us. Does this shift into facial recognition, and, you know, does that concern you at all? Do you have privacy concerns, or is that just, you know, it's a non-issue, it is what it is? Facebook already has better facial recognition, allegedly, than, you know, some government agencies, so that's just the world we live in.
So I think both you and I, Eric, are pretty realists when it comes to being concerned about technology like facial recognition. It's being used in public spaces, and I'll just point out that the new Nest Cam IQ, which Nest is owned by Google, has facial recognition technology built into it, so that when a family member comes in the home, it recognizes that who it is. So, as Greg McPherson has pointed out on this show a number of times, Apple is frequently not the innovative player to come to the game. I don't think that they're like doing anything that's groundbreaking in the industry introducing the facial recognition technology. I'm glad they are, but I think whether we like it or not, facial recognition technology is being used on all of us already.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I just noticed on one of the Nest Cams, on the native Google page, they have made an announcement that you can now use your Google Home for hands-free calling, similar to the calling functionality that exists in Amazon's little device whose name starts with an A, and some of the others. And so as I was picking through this site, looking at some of the Google devices, there's other elements that play into the Google sphere, which are outside of, obviously, the Apple sphere. But the Nest products and services, the thermostat, the camera, those sorts of elements, and you can kind of go through and kind of see some of the other devices that are available. And so I think Connected Home is where the Nest is, and this is the guy of which,
Nest Cam
of which you
IQ,
speak.
right?
Yep. So that has intelligence built within it, so that if you're recording things at home and you want to make sure you capture what's going on, it can recognize the difference between, you know, something falling off the table versus a dog versus Aunt Sally stopping by for a visit, and kind of gives you some of that detail. And so, yeah, I think it's much more of the world in which we live today than anything else. So it doesn't freak me out, but I know there are people.
That particular device, you can capture little Johnny's face so that it can actually, and I haven't tried this out, I've merely read the specs on it, but either it can alert you when little Johnny gets home, or if you say, this is little Johnny's face, don't send an alert when he gets home. And it's funny, if you read deep in the specs, one of the things that you'll see is that the facial recognition technology can be used when you have a registered address in all states, except I think it's the state of Illinois doesn't allow it to be used.
Sorry, those of you that are listening from Chicago, not eligible. So it's like those credit card offers, offer void in the states of Texas, Florida, California, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. Yep.
I do want to talk about the watch.
Good. Let's go to the watch. So, Series 3.
The watch. I've never had a desire to have an Apple Watch or any type of connected watch because I didn't want my wrist vibrating when I got a text message, email, or things like that. But I'm actually, this may be the watch that puts me over the edge. And the thing that's exciting to me about this watch is that it actually has the cell service built into it.
I would agree. Yep.
You know, when I'm on the treadmill at the gym, I can listen to I will be able to listen to my music. If you'll notice, coming soon is right below where it talks about the music. But I can do everything that I want to do with the watch without having to worry about having my phone within Bluetooth range. And that's a big deal to me. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Price of the watch is the same for the model without cell built in. It's moderately more. Since I haven't worn a watch in many years, since I have a cell phone in my pocket all the time, if I pull the trigger here, it's going to be on the low end aluminum watch, which I think is $399 or $299, and if you add the cell service, it's another $30 or $40 more. I'm on AT&T. AT&T charges you, it's the same as when you add an iPad to your multi-device plan. So it's $10 plus tax, which in my state ends up being about $12.50 a month to add it to my unlimited talk and text plan with more data than I've ever used in a single month.
Gotcha. Yeah, I can see where, because I migrated. I had a Pebble smartwatch that worked great, and then Fitbit bought them, and the Pebble, it stays in my bag, and I still carry it around as a backup. But I moved to the Garmin Phoenix series of watches, and it does almost everything that I would want a watch to do. The thing that I miss on my Garmin is the ability that I could do on my Pebble is if somebody sent a text message, I could either speak to my watch and it would allow me to interpret, or it would interpret what I'm saying, or I had a series of canned responses. So if you sent me a text message, I could send you back just by scrolling through and say, can't talk now, give me a call, I'll call you right back. The Garmin doesn't have that capability. It does vibrate when there's a text message or an email address, and you can turn that on or off. The thing that I really like about the Garmin is the battery life. And I will go a week or more, even when I use this for occasional runs and bike rides, without having to remember to charge it. And it's totally waterproof, and I know that they've solved that issue with the Apple Watch 2 and now the 3. But the problem with some of the smartwatches is, the battery only goes for a day or two, and then you got to remember to stick it on your charger. So then you're charging your phone, you're charging your watch, so all these things are so dependent on remembering to charge them. This I can throw on my wrist and, in a week, worry about finding a place to charge it, and I'm ready to go in 45 minutes. So until something better comes out from an Android perspective, I'm sticking with the Garmin, but I can see if you're an iPhone user, how this watch with the cellular service could certainly be an advantage.
I'll tell you a story that's kind of funny. I started doing some volunteer work recently, and it's at a secure facility that you are not allowed to take your cell phone out of your vehicle. When you get out of your vehicle, you leave the cell phone in the vehicle and lock the cell phone in the vehicle. And I spend about 2 hours a week inside of this facility. Talk about becoming aware of how dependent we are on devices like our cell phones.
Yeah.
I find myself every time I say something that I want to cross-reference the information, my hand starts reaching for my pocket, and I'm like, oh my God, my cell phone's not there.
Well, and if now you have cell service on your watch, but you want your watch with you, now you have to, leave your watch, and that watch can't come with you. Whereas if you have a watch, so there are some advantages and disadvantages to having everything all on one device. And this would be an item that you would not be able to bring into that facility, despite the fact that maybe it's tracking your heart rate and your steps, and you're using it for fitness, and you want to make sure that it collects all of your activity data. You're going to have a 2-hour gap in your day because this now has the potential to be the communications device, which violates the privacy of that particular facility. So,
well, it
first
doesn't
world
have
problems,
a camera on
I
it.
tell you.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how this does in fact affect secure facilities, because there are a number of types of facilities that don't allow you to carry things like cell phones in, and
yep.
I suspect there are. I'm not aware of another watch device that has cell service built into it, and I think what'll happen short term is that these devices will actually end up getting into facilities that don't allow cell phones, and there'll be a security breach, and we'll go through a period of time where, who knows, you may have to take off any watch before you go into such facilities.
Yep. Strep. Put on your birthday suit. We'll let you in. On that wonderful visual for our audience. Yeah.
I have a friend who's petrified of flying, and she had this theory that she thought for airport security, everyone should have to strip and put on Tyvek suits in order to go on an airplane.
Uncomfortable. So
yeah, I'm not going to be a volunteer for that.
Nope, I don't blame you. So, well, anything else on the Apple front that you wanted to mention from some of their recent announcements?
I don't think so.
Yeah. So the only thing, just to kind of wrap up, and again, for those of you that are bankers in the audience, you know, I've shared with you the Banker Education Series webinar I did with JP. This is the organization that he is a part of called Next Money. They have fintech events around the world, and I am lucky that they are just going to be down the road in Chicago, which is just about a 3-hour drive for me. So I'm driving into Chicago and going to spend a couple of days with all the fintech crew there. But you can go to nextmoney.org and simply click on this Chicago link, and this will load up the landing page for that. If you are interested, and JP did indicate that there are still tickets available, you can use the code ERIC25 in your registration process, and that'll get you a 25% discount on your ticket. So JP has provided me with a nice little coupon code, which has been pretty cool. But you can roll through here and you can take a look at some of the speakers, and in particular, Brett and Jim are two of the folks, and there's a lot of people here that are really great speakers, but Brett has written several books. Bank 2.0, Bank 3.0, Augmented is his most recent book, talking about the whole concept of augmented reality and its impact, not just on the banking industry, but society in general. So that'll be kind of cool. And then Jim Maru from the Financial Brand and Digital Banking Report, or Online Banking Report, I believe. Both are pretty much rock stars in the world of fintech and kind of what's going on as it relates to technology in the banking and financial services space. So it's going to be a really great event. So the schedule is there. It's at a pretty cool, looks like a pretty cool venue in Chicago. And, you know, the thing that I like is there's no overlapping sessions where you have to pick one or the other. Everything is kind of a main stage session, so I don't have to make the decision of, do I want to listen to Jim, or do I want to listen to Brett, or do I want to go here, do I want to go there? Everything is all basically under one roof, and everybody's going to have kind of their time on stage to go through stuff. So this will be a really, really cool event. So I'm excited about it. And again, if any bankers, or if you're interested in the fintech industry, I talked to a friend of mine that works for a startup in the Chicago area recently, and it sounds like either himself or somebody from his organization might come by, because they actually have customers that are part of the organizations that will be attending this. So this will be kind of a major league event, which is going to be cool. So. Well, that's the look at the calendar, or the clock calendar. The calendar says today's the 20th. It's still the 20th, but it is 1:56, and we are getting close to the end of our time together, Jeff. So let's go ahead and put a bow on this show. Thank you so much for the insight. I got a friend of mine that said, with the X or the 10 coming out, is that going to convince you to leave your Android device and jump ship? I don't know. He's getting one. I'll play with it. I don't want to make any promises. I'm very anxious to see what's going to happen with the Pixel devices. So that'll probably be topics for another show. But until then, we'll wrap this one up. Thank everybody for joining us live. And if you listen to the recording, thanks for listening. And we'll look forward to seeing you down the road at a future episode here at freewebinarwednesdays.com. Until then, have a great week. Take care.